Whenever I start a sculpture, I like to warm up the clay and get it responsive. Today I'm going to be building a deer, so I'm thinking about the anatomy right from the start, how the muscles stretch along the rib cage, the angle of the legs and the tilt of the skull. Keep it hollow and kiln safe. I bulk out the inside with scrunched up paper. It gives it a lightweight core to wrap the clay around and stop me ending up with a solid brick. I've chosen to sculpt the deer lying down so that he's not unstable on his leg. My next stage is to smooth out the lumps into more natural shape. I'm constantly checking my reference images of deer skeletons and skulls and muscles to get the correct shapes. To make the legs more natural, I've mapped out where they go on the underside of the body, but then a little bit flat so that it doesn't roll over. Once I'm happy with the body, I add in the hoof detail. For the muzzle, I've put in 2 holes to show me where the nostrils go, and then I add the bottom lip, and then smooth it out and refine the shape. Eyes are never just balls stuck on the side of your face. You need to hollow out the eye socket first, and by doing this, you can create a more natural looking eye. I'm doing this on both sides of the face so that it's equal at the same time. I'm using reference photos of skulls to make sure that the shapes are correct. I then create 2 little eyeballs out of clay and add on the eyelids, smooth them down and refine them, and this creates a 3D look and gives it depth. This can be quite tricky, so you can always go back and redo it several times by just digging out the eye socket again and redoing the same stage. Using these tools, I'm refining shapes, trying to create a more symmetrical look for both sides of the face. Create the ears and then use clay slip, kind of like a glue, to attach them to the head. Deer ears have a strong base where they attach to the skull, so I'm pressing firmly and make sure that they're tightly attached to the head so that they don't fall off during the firing. I'm making sure that one ear is in place and then the other ear is symmetrical. It's quite hard, so I have to take it off and put it on again. But once they're on, I then refine the shape even further. To create the antler, I'm using heat-resistant wire and wrapping 2 sections of wire together to create different tines and making it a little bit thicker at the top. And then making sure that both antlers have the same amount of wire and have at least 2 centimeters of depth so that they can go into the head. The next step is to wrap the wire in clay. Whilst doing this, I added in a few more tines and perfected the shape. Here I've wet the clay to smooth it out a little bit. I've just popped the antler off so that I can clean up the shape and make it perfect. I then do the other antler and put that into place. I'm using the tools to finesse the details. Next up, I'll start looking at adding in fur details to the chest and the tail. Now I allowed it to get leather hard, and now it's time to cut out the paper former. I'm doing this by cutting down the middle and pulling him apart, pulling out the former, and then reattaching him all together. Before reattaching him, I decided to take out a little bit of the insides, just to make him a little bit more lightweight. I'm using clay slip to glue the two halves back together. And then using my fingers to smooth out that centre join. I'm adding a little bit more clay here, just to really force that join together so it doesn't come apart in the kiln. I've added in a small hole on the underside to allow the air to escape during the firing. I really wanted the fur detail to be quite 3D, so I've added in a little bit more clay to help shape the fur. I then used the clay to help me sculpt in the fur detail by following where the clay is lying with where the fur would sit. Looking back at reference images really helps me figure out how the fur sits at the front of the deer. Once the bulk of the shape is in, I then go back in and add more fur texture, making sure to add the texture all the way around to make sure it's a 3D effect. I then add in a little texture to the antlers, and then he's done.